Prospects here. Get your prospect reviews here. The top 50 prospects headed into 2021. It's time to review the Dingers list. We're going to see who's on pace to achieve greatness, who has fallen flat on their face, and who has yet to debut for performance or injury reasons. It's time for Dingers.
This is Dingers, way more than fantasy baseball. We keep it real when we talk and knock it straight out the park. Let's see the stats. What's the average draft position? What kind of plays you making? Check the wins above replacement. Check the lineups and the points. This I gotta see. What's your path to victory? Are they aiming for a dynasty? Get points going head to head. Please don't do me no favors. We're always watching waivers. Ain't no minor league. This is major. Yeah, Dingers. Let's go.
Welcome to Dingers, the only fantasy baseball podcast for smart people. It's not just Casey Mize that wins you championships. That's why week in and week out we're delivering tips and strategies to help you live that straight up OG lifestyle. Tyler Schatz joined again by Robbie Baseball from the murder room. What's happening, Robbie?
Oh, nothing. Just super annoyed because I fixed the brakes on my truck. The rear brakes, and they just keep locking on me. So I drove down the road to do a test, turned around and came back, and they were just red hot, stinky burny. And then I took them off and then put them back on, and it did it again. And then I took them off and did it again about an hour ago. And then I called the mechanic who I call and say, can you tell me what's wrong with my truck? And then I pay him for that. And then I go and fix it. But this time I could not fix it. So I don't know what's up, but I do have a big trip to leave for in 4 days. So this is not great timing. But anyway, how are you?
They say, from what I know about brakes, they say you need them. So
yeah, I'm taking the back out to drive it to the mechanic tomorrow. So I'm going to try the front only, but I'm not putting a boat and trailer behind my truck to drive for 4.5 hours without my rear brakes.
Excellent decision. I'm rather sore through a solid 3 innings of shutout baseball this evening.
Oh, nice.
Struck out some old guys, which was awesome. There's a rule in our league because it's like an over 30 open league, right? So there's a rule if you're over like a certain age, you get to use an aluminum bat. And if there's a guy that steps to the plate with an aluminum bat, you know that he's not hitting the baseball. So I just go fastball, 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 fastball until you axe them, right? So it's let's just say I ticked up the strikeout numbers tonight a little bit, which was nice.
Nice. Well, tonight we're going to be going through our top 50 prospect list, and we're going to talk about the guys that are getting strikeouts, that are getting struck out where they are, or that are not even playing because they're hurt. But we can't do that until we draw.
A long time ago, someone decided to put stuff in glass bottles. In some of these bottles, they put juice or milk, and that was stupid. Today, only alcohol and a few other products remain in the containers from the gods. It's time for beers and bourbon, because good advice only comes in a bottle.
Whoa. That
Nice.
was crisp. That was very crisp.
Yeah.
Very excited about that one. I went to an old friend today. How about a Woodford?
Well, there you go. Well, hey, and Govier is or was on Canadian soil this week to get to see his girl for the first time in a very long time. So, Govier, if you're listening, hope you had a good weekend on Canadian soil. I don't see how you couldn't. But I'm not doing anything fancy, Ty. I'm drinking a Miller Lite, and there's two reasons. One is that I took all my empties back. So anybody who saw on Twitter at Robbie Baseball 1, I filled the now can't drive truck with empties. So this room behind me, clean. The room out there, clean. The garage, clean. The shop, clean. My pockets, empty. But that's because this only costs, it's a 30-pack, only costs me $2.50.
So there's a guy that I curled against for years in competitive curling. He's a farmer that drove this truck, and he just literally threw every empty he drank in the back of the truck. So his truck was just a pool of beer bottles. It was hilarious. Like 9 cases, just empties in the truck. It was legendary.
I felt bad. I felt bad bringing all my mixed glass and everything to the guy. But at the same time, like, I needed to get rid of this stuff, and it was in so many different spots. But now I'm good. So now I also have 30 Miller Lights to enjoy, which I'm going to do. And I didn't want to get anything too crazy before I go on my trip, because I need to have generic beer to share with, my 2 uncles and my 1 cousin who are going. But not generic are the top 50 Dingers prospects. So just to let everybody know, we like to use 8x8. So that includes your standard 5x5, obviously. But we're also going for walks for hitters, strikeouts for hitters, and OPS. So that helps to include the OBP guys in that. For pitchers, we are including saves and holds as a single category, because we like to think that promotes better players. And then, as we know with closers, ebb and flow, right? Somebody can start the year as a closer, go for 4 months without doing it, and then magically be closing again in September. So we do the save and hold for that. We also have quality starts. And oh my goodness, what's the other fun, exciting thing we do? So we've got wins, losses, save holds, quality starts, strikeouts, hits per 9, and whatever. When we get to the first pitcher, we'll go through it. But Ty, the 50th guy on our list when we started this season was JJ Bliday. He was 52, just off the list at the end of the 2020 season for us. And Bladay's been fine. Not spectacular, but he's been fine. He's got sorry, I guess I shouldn't say fine. Sorry. In 374 plate appearances, the average is 201, but the OBP is okay at 318. So I don't know what the transition is that's going on with him. Lost, 11 dingers for this year, and he's at AA. So he's learning as he goes. So he's definitely been pumped on the brakes as far as shooting star up the rankings.
And something that's very alarming with Miami outfielders is that he's not the first one that this has happened to, right? We're 6 or 7 deep on Miami outfield prospects that had star power in the minors, low levels. And as they get to the top, they start to sputter out a little bit. So definitely a concerning developmental trend that we need to see if they correct. But there's lots of guys that fit that profile.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of right now. So everyone's talking about, it's Lewis Brinson is breaking out and things. Well, Lewis Brinson might just be getting some playing time. Not that he hasn't had it before, but we talked about this in the offseason, how there were basically, I think it was 6 outfielders in Miami that all had a shot over the next 18 months to get onto the club, to get a legitimate shot and all these things. And not a lot had to happen for it. And this went as far as including is it Victor Mesa in that crew, who we were like, well, it could happen, because they aren't just going to let him sit and wallow away. They're going to move him and push him and see what he can do. So, but of this, JJ Bliday, seems to be transitioning in some way, shape, or form, not in the most positive way, but a definite surprise for us. Somebody who was off the spectrum when the season ended last year at our 309th prospect, but a huge move up. Trevor Rogers, Miami Marlin also. And Rogers has been dazzling. Now, Ty, we've talked about him a lot, so we don't need to go too far into it, how there could be regression. It could be all these things. But in 27...
You see that with rookie pitchers all the time. It's not Trevor Rogers. It's all rookie pitchers.
Yeah, and 27 starts, so this includes the bit last year, 3.20 ERA, 138 innings, and 168 Ks. Awesome. So Trevor Rogers exceeding expectations, even as the number 49 ranked prospect. And again, this is over the next 5 years of estimated MLB production. So that, yes, there are guys who are further away that could be better. But there's a big difference between saying somebody could be better and someone actually is doing it. And that's what we want to find out, is who's actually going to get it done over the next 5 years. So being closer on the cusp is an important factor. And if you're not, if the player's not close, then that means that we expect them to skyrocket up. So that would be somebody who was drafted last year. Alek Manoah was just off this list. Ty was talking before about how he was confident Manoah was going to be up. So he was giving him a big boost, but I was not. And I think he was somewhere in the 90s for my prospect ranking. And that's what kept him off of our top 50. So next man up here is Taylor Trammell with Seattle. Oh, poor Taylor Trammell, right? I mean, given the opportunity, there is no excuse for Taylor Trammell not being better in my mind. Ty, 156 at bats over the career, a 160 average, but it's it's been rough this year, right? There was all that crap at the start of the year, how, Kelnick said if he had accepted a long-term offer like Evan White did, he would have started the year. But because he didn't, he was going to be suppressed and all these things. And then it was as if Dipoto heard it, was like, well, let's just bring somebody up, Taylor Trammell. And then Trammell came up and struggled, and it's been back and forth. But I mean, no part of it has been great. The power is okay. In 156 at bats, he's got 8 dingers. So over, 500 at bats, that would be north of 25. But everything else is rough. Strikeout rate is like really close to 40%. And oh man, none of it's good. Even OBP 256 right now. So there's not a lot of
that's his major league numbers. Like he spent most of the season, like he's got an additional 190 plate appearances in the minors, right? He's hitting 299 with an 886 OBP, OPS in AAA, right? So a little inflated in the PCL, but reasonable enough. Like he's still just 23. Like he got rushed. He got the short end of the stick, like you said. I think there's still a player here. I do think he's more of a third, fourth outfielder, but he's going to be a major league outfielder. That's going to be
okay. Okay, and that's fair. But my basically point of especially sticking to the major league numbers for Trammell was to describe what you said. He's just being outmatched when he's at this level. And I will use the excuse as much as I possibly can of Keston Hiura, who came up, looked like he was good, looked like he was a legitimate MLB player, but his profile changed from college to more of a power profile. And it seems to have, kind of caught up to him. And you had talked about it too, Taya, how you weren't sure, you weren't sold on Hiura long-term. And he is the penultimate. Is that the last, whatever it is. Anyway, he's like a quad A guy, quad A god. That's what I'm getting at. You're going to believe in him because of the AAA numbers. You're going to say he does have a history at the MLB level. And that's what I've used in the Dynasty League that I still own him in. I have traded him in another one, but it was just like, I was so excited for just a consistent player. And now he's anything but. And the strikeout rate is the most concerning thing, because if at AAA he can, throw the ball, spray the ball everywhere, what is it that's changing when he's up at MLB? And that could be very much like Taylor Trammell. So anyway, next guy up here, Max Meyer, 3rd overall pick in last year's draft. We both assume he's flying up Miami's rankings and he's going to be up sooner than later. Well, he's a AA right now, 2 ERA.
He's 6-1, right? Like, I mean, I like what Miami did here. Like, it was aggressive for Meyer, right? With a polished college pitcher. That's what you'd like to see is an aggressive assignment and do his thing. What I don't like, and there's 2 parts to this. First part is I don't like that Miami was dangling him at the trade deadline. That's concerning, right? As a team looking to build around guys in this age group, it's a concerning thing that he was available at the trade deadline. I don't know why, but he was. And his walks per 9 right now is 3.8, and his K per 9 is 9.9, right? So even if it's an aggressive, like he's on average 2.6 years younger than his competition at AA. But, the reality here is that he's played against a lot of higher end polished players for the last couple seasons. I'm very concerned about the drop from the 15 K per 9 in his last year of college to a 9.9. And listen, there's better hitters at AA. That's obvious. Right. But at the same time, that is just concerning. It's not a red alarm yet, but it's a flag to stick in Max Meyer to just watch.
Okay. Next guy up, Emerson Hancock with Seattle. Ty, you really liked him out of the draft. He has been limited somewhat in innings, 10 starts this year at both A and AA, I believe. Yes, high A and AA, 35 and 2/3 innings, 36 Ks. But the whip, beautiful, decimal 925, hits per 9 at 4.8. So again, this is somebody who I think is along the 2022 train with George Kirby, although I guess Kirby's one behind. I don't think Kirby's up at AA yet, but it doesn't matter if he is or isn't. They're both next year aligned, and Seattle is looking good with that rotation. You center it around your boy Marco Gonzalez and your other boy Chris Flexen.
Oh man, just running relievers out into the rotation.
But anyway, just they seem to have some good promise. And one of the nice things that did happen, and I feel like we're going to mention him much higher up. Logan Gilbert did not come in, continue to suck, and then get demoted. So Logan Gilbert, part of that rotation moving forward. Emerson Hancock likely to join it next year. Next gap, Riley Green with Detroit. This is one of the guys that was, I think maybe it's the youngest or second youngest guy on this list, Ty, for us, coming in at 45 out of Detroit. He was 47 for us at the end of the 2020 season, moved up a couple spots. And, Riley Green's a ball player. And as you've talked about, Detroit, a team on the rise, not a team on the fall. So this could all, come together very well for him. It's just a matter of that acceleration to the big leagues. There's already talk of Spencel Torkelson breaking camp with Detroit next year. Why? I don't know, but that's just what's happening right now, is that you can potentially expect a guy like Torkelson to be so valuable, even though he's not dominating at his level, that he will break camp with Detroit. I don't think that's going to happen. But a guy like Riley Green could just continue to climb right on up, and we could see him.
What I really like, I think we'll see both of them near the same time. What I really like for Riley Green is that he's at the same level as Spencel Torkelson, right? He started above him at AA this year, and then Torkelson graduated after doing quite well at A. Torkelson's not been bad at double, but he's definitely not been as good as Riley Green. Right. So we'll get to that later. But Riley Green is one of those guys that's very underappreciated, in my opinion. I think he's maybe the most underappreciated guy in our top 50.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Next gap 44 is Nolan Jones. At AAA, it has not been the best season for Nolan Jones, to say the least. 223 average, 763 OPS. Not too bad. 11 dingers in 291 at bats. Sorry, I was looking at the plate appearances. So overall, not too bad. Just under 10 stolen bases at the moment. Strikeout to walk ratio is 2-1, but this is somebody who should be in Cleveland soon. And it might be that offseason trade you're talking about of Ramirez to the Jays that helps to open that door, because there should be opportunity next year for a guy like Nolan Jones with Cleveland. I think he'll start next year at 22. And then turn 23 in season. I believe that's right.
This has been a buy for me all year as people start to sour on him. There's just too much plate discipline in his background for him not to make this adjustment, right? So I think a lot of guys with plate discipline develop a little bit later because they're getting burnt on better pitches instead of the ones that they are used to kind of nipping. So I think this is a guy that's going to have a bounce back season next year. I just think it's a confident buy for me at this point.
Okay, and next gap is Mike Brousseau. Oh, wait, sorry, I mean Vidal Bruján. But they're essentially the same player. Blah!
Oh, man.
Well, this is something that we talked about before, having a bit of concern over a guy like Bruján, over Wander Franco, who we'll talk about later, simply because of the organization. Tampa Bay is not going to let you come up and suck. And Vidal Bruján started hot in April, and everybody was like, he should be promoted. He should be promoted. Tampa Bay doesn't listen to anybody but themselves. They know what they're doing. And he finished off his AAA line at 289, 373, 484 for an OPS of 858, which is great. Love it. Good stuff. But a lot of that production was really early in the season. 9 dingers by the time he left after 256 at-bats. He, as a pro in 26 at-bats, has not done a damn thing. Decimal 77 average. Oh, sorry, 0.77 average. Yeah, not at all good. And
still producing a triple. I think he's just he got bumped a little bit early, in my opinion.
And that's the thing. He's one of however many guys who have come up this year and just not got it done. That, to me, that's the end of it. Let's all just back off and let this guy develop at a slower pace instead of trying to rush everybody up. And Vidal Bruján was getting inside top 10 lists and doing all sorts of things, and that wasn't where he belonged. And then when he had a hot April, everyone was like, oh, I'm making my adjustment because the wind blew. And all of a sudden Vidal Bruján's up higher on lists. And that's the unfortunate part of the prospect landscape, right? Is that values can get skyrocketed. And I think at that point in time, you have to remember to treat those guys like an asset, not like a player. And you have to sell high on the asset. And when it's a guy like Vidal Bruján, who maybe you don't believe in, maybe you do. And if you do believe in him, then just be happy you've got him. If you don't, sell him. But another guy who was getting hyped crazily towards the end of spring training, and it affected our ranking, he jumped from 108 all the way to 42 was Dalton Jeffries with Oakland. And the only reason that this happened was all the talk was that Jeffries was going to be the SP5 in Oakland. And it was like, he's done really well in the spring. He's going to get his chance to come up. the end. And then it didn't happen. And then this guy named Irvin came up, and then this other dude named Caprillion came up, and then this rotation's full, and there's no Dalton Jeffries. So we're sitting here holding on to Jeffries at 42, saying, well, we'll wait it out. He's still young. And I think that's kind of where we are, Ty.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, we talk about this all the time. Like, anytime you're going to get actual production at the major league level, they need to be higher in the ranks. So that's why he's there. I still think he belongs there, to be honest with you. Like, I think he's going to be there at some point still in September. We've seen him already in July and August. So I think we're going to see him again to open camp next year. And I think it's going to be tough for him not to push for a job there. So I think inside the top 50 is where he belongs. I don't think that's a mistake on any of our part at that point.
Yeah, I think the big thing for us was just that we were expecting the production, the MLB production, to be the boost. And the fact that it wasn't, if I was going to say that we have guys on this list who have a lot of work to do to earn that ranking because it is extended over the next 5 years, at this moment in time, Brouillon has a lot of work to do. So does his compadre at 42, Jeffries. Now, next guy up here, Grayson Rodriguez with Baltimore. Baby, that he was 44 with us before. At the end of last season, before this season at 41. So he moved up. He certainly is poised for a big jump, not to mention all the guys that are going to graduate and be off this list. But I think it's safe to say that Grayson Rodriguez will be inside our top 10 when this season is over and possibly climb up from that point. He's done nothing but impress, and like as a pitcher, not just as a stat line that we watch for fantasy.
Correct. Yeah, I agree. This is probably the most exciting arm for me in all of the minor leagues. I'm most excited for him above anyone else down there. So
even Brett Manuel?
Yes, for sure. Because he does not have steel plates and pins and everything throughout his entire arm.
If you don't listen to Conor McGregor, you don't know what you're talking about, Ty, because having titanium and other things in your body actually makes you stronger. So
yeah. I'm not touching that one. Not in this political climate.
What? Okay. So anyway, next guy up is Dean Kramer with Baltimore. He was up last year, similar to Dalton Jeffries, where we thought there's a spot for him to go in Baltimore. But Ty, did you know Matt Harvey was still an MLB pitcher? I didn't. I knew Jorge Lopez was. I knew he was.
Anytime you can just plug Jorge Lopez, just anytime.
It's got to be legitimate to say it, but yeah, like we thought Kramer was going to get starts through like natural opportunity by lack of depth in the organization.
And he's had them. He just hasn't been very good, right? Yeah. Like he's gotten dumped on, and that's a major recoil. He kind of came out of nowhere, was very impressive, and it wasn't the kind of impressive where you just come in and he, like a Luis Gill has done over the last couple weeks, where you come in and just overpower, right? It's not that kind of impressive. It was like he came out and he pitched, and so naturally you get excited. But I think it could be something we will see Dean Kramer again, but at the same time, it's certainly alarming that he has done what he's done this season. The next guy on the list, though, Hunter Green, not that. Hunter Green has had a beautiful season and is a guy that, I think if Cincinnati was more realistic about making the playoffs, I think we would see Hunter Green this season. But I think as a result of them, I think in their stomach, they know they're missing out. Right, I think they just know that this isn't the season for them. 1.98 ERA at AA, where he spent about half the season. The other half has been at AAA. He's got 9 starts there, 3.63 ERA, still quite good. He's just 21, right? So that puts him, almost over 6 years younger than his average peer at AAA. So this is a kid that throws absolute gas. The K per 9s are up there in where we want to see our starter numbers 12 and 13. Respectively. So, that's a really important piece of the puzzle here. Not a lot of bombs. The whip is in control. So everything here says we're going to see Hunter Green next season, assuming there's no lockout and assuming Cincinnati doesn't open up the wallet and sign a bunch of pitchers, because if they don't, they need Hunter Green to be one of their 5 starters.
Yeah, and Hunter Green has the physical makeup of the ideal pitcher. Tall, good, good like body form. He
5'30", It works.
Yeah, just looks awesome. Next gap on the list, 38 for us, is Oakland's Jesus Luzardo. Sorry, was Oakland's Jesus Luzardo, now Miami. He started how many games this year? Now that he's in Miami, he's a starter. So 3 games at this moment in time that he started. 6 he had started with Oakland. It's ugly. It's been ugly. The thing that we thought was going to happen was going to be in that rotation, very much like Dalton Jeffries, and didn't happen. Now he's in Miami. They're giving him the ball. Let's go. Let's go. Let's see some solid development from Luzardo as he continues to develop. And I would just want to remind everybody who thinks Jesus Luzardo might be nobody from nowhere. Sandy Alcantara was an absolute fireballer from the Cardinals when he was traded to Miami, and people were like, yeah, he's not going to do what everybody thought he's going to do, right? He's not going to be this like 12K per 9 guy. He's not going to be this dominant ace. Go and look at Sandy Alcantara right now. Imagine 3 years from now, that's Jesus Luzardo. I want it all.
Yeah.
It's a matter of, are the guys who have him in those dynasty leagues this offseason, are they going to look at the stat line and look at whatever you're dangling and bite? And if they are, take it. Get Jesus Luzardo, especially if you know he's going to be SP4, SP5 next year with Miami, because Miami's got lots of pitching, but Luzardo's already ahead of those guys, a lot of those guys.
He's one of my favorite offseason targets right now. I'm looking into him in a big way. Next on the list, outfielder Brennen Davis in Chicago with the Cubbies. This is their top-rated prospect, I believe, at this moment. Outfield prospect. This is a guy that everybody thinks is going to be great. I've said it many, many times. I do not trust Chicago to develop an outfielder. They haven't done it in a very, very long time. So I'm very cautious to be high on Brennen Davis. And I'd love to be wrong here. I'd love to see the kid perform. But I'm going to go off of history here, and I'm staying away. Robbie, I know you're a little higher on him. I know the industry as a whole is higher on Brennen Davis, and that's fine. But where are you at with Brennen Davis?
I mean, I'm going to wait until we see the season end and see exactly where Brennen Davis's line finishes. And then I'm going to go back and do some of the things you had mentioned with some of the other guys. Look at the age that he was playing against, younger or older for his age, because he was drafted out of high school. It does appear, though, as if the Cubs are not at all going to rush him, because everyone else that they've been acquiring is roughly 14 years old. So the push is not on getting guys to their big league club to improve like it was with Nico Horner, get them over the hump into the playoffs. It's now going to be about the Cleveland method of, those coin machines where you put the money in and then it like slowly gets to the edge, but it doesn't push over. And then every so often you get a little dump of dudes over. That's pretty much what I'm envisioning happening. We're going to need to see a few guys move, and Brennen Davis could be part of that. But the Cubbies are also, finding guys with like Patrick Wisdom, Frank Schwindel, I think is one of the other guys that they've got. They're just getting dudes who are kind of somewhat rookie eligible, or at least controllable, and they're playing them. Now, if they're going to turn them into assets this offseason and sign veteran free agents, I don't know. I don't think so. I feel like they're just going to roll over to next year with these guys, or try to offer them deals and then see what happens, because the Cubs
go with the warm body approach, right?
Yeah. The Cubs don't seem like they're trying to win. So that's going to hurt a guy like Brennen Davis, who's going to have to be the best outfield prospect and get called up by the Cubs when they have something else to offer him, so that he doesn't have to go and like bat 7th or 8th on a team that has no power in front. Because that's not going to work out well. Next guy up, O'Neal Cruz, 36 with Pittsburgh. He was 14 last October and then did not have himself the best offseason. Don't remember exactly what the deal was. I know it was something about like a car accident that somebody died, and there were issues and injuries with him. So
it sounded like a drunk driver coming the opposite way without their lights on, is what I believe happened.
Okay, so there was the injury, and he's been limited this year to 43 games. And the numbers are fine. 887 OPS, 289 average. He is a 22-year-old at AA, however, and this is somebody who we thought could get up this year. And because of that, when we made that adjustment with the injuries and things, 36 looks like probably a safe spot when we finish off the season. That's about where he's going to be for me. Pittsburgh, again, further clearing out that system. So there shouldn't be, outside of next April, May, when there will be all of those Phillip Evans type guys, the Rule 5 dudes, everybody else, Hoy Park, who's now on Pittsburgh. All those guys will get their opportunity, and then it could very well be time for guys like Oneil Cruz. So
yeah, next up, Tyler Freeman in Cleveland, second base prospect, one of the good ones they have in their system. I believe I saw this week that he had season-ending surgery. Does that ring a bell for you, Robbie?
I have not seen that.
I could have sworn I saw that he got shut down. I'll
Okay.
do a little thing. Why don't you tell everybody what we're expecting from Tyler Freeman? I don't think that impacts his long-term value because this is a kid on the rise. This is a real deal prospect for Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, he was 36 with us at the end of last year, 35 to start this year. But the reason that there wasn't much movement is the age and the organization. Cleveland's going to go slow with him. Cleveland's going to need to clear out some dudes. And this is a ball player all over the field. Like, he'll be able to spray the ball. Should be able to move around the bases very well. You know, we've talked about Nick Magical before and how he's not a great base runner. But again, that's something that I think Cleveland can be working on if they feel like that's something Freeman's not doing. So I can see Freeman as your 5 category guy, as your 8 category guy, if you want, depending on your format. He's going to be there. He's going to be over 3.25 points per game for you as well. So if you're depending on the league size, right? I know if you talk 20 team and over for points league, you need a player who's going to be at least at 3 points per game on your offensive side to be able to help you keep pace. And that allows you to have pitchers win you weeks. If you are in a bigger league, a guy like Tyler Freeman, to me, becomes even more valuable because he's going to be able to contribute in multiple areas.
Yeah, shoulder season on the shoulder surgery on the left shoulder. He is done for the year.
By the seashore.
Right. Yeah, he hits right, throws right. So this isn't a hugely impactful surgery. Shouldn't impact his value moving forward. Next guy on the list is a guy we love to hate, Mackenzie Gore. A very high rated prospect entering the season on almost every list.
Yeah.
And I know no one believed me when I said this about Mackenzie Gore years ago. I'm like, this guy's not as good as you think. He's just not. And then here we are. Like, Mackenzie Gore has enough to be a major league pitcher, in my opinion. He does not have enough to be elite. That's just not there. And so we're starting to see some of that at the higher levels. And, you know, just is what it is. So, like, I think where we had him, 34, most people would have been, you know, making fun of us. They would have said, you guys are idiots.
Well, that was very much like Wander Franco. We got a lot of negative feedback 2 years ago when we were rating Franco way back. And then last year, the same thing. And headed into this year, I think everybody just stopped because they're like, okay, like, they obviously are not aware of normal things in life. But just because a whole bunch of people think somebody when they're 18 and 19 is a dominant pitcher for their age, for their level, it doesn't mean that it's going to just incrementally go up and they're going to continue to improve. And neither of us, Ty, were excited about Mackenzie Gore. And one of the leagues that I'm in, I took over a team 2 years ago. The guy traded his entire draft class. So all 5 of his rookie rounds and whatever else it was he had, he emptied his tank to get Mackenzie Gore, thinking he was a game-changing pitcher. And I touched base randomly with this guy in the offseason. I was like, why did you do that? And he's like, oh, man, Gore's going to be so good. And he has a fantasy baseball podcast. I don't recall the name. I remember telling him I'd go on and then never heard back from him. So that's fine. But it was just one of those indications where I'm like, this is why you have to balance everything you do with, like, proximity to MLB to get you the opportunity, and then the high ceiling guys. But Mackenzie Gore was just too valuable from the moment he was drafted and started playing to be able to be, to me, an affordable dynasty guy. So that was the only league I had him in. I still have him. I've offered pretty good value in trade return, like Joe Adell for Gore straight up, and that was rejected this year, and other deals of that sort. So Mackenzie Gore's stock is just falling and falling.
Absolutely.
And falling.
Yeah,
And
I agree. And it's
so.
a perfect segue into the next guy, who is Jason Dominguez, who is everybody's favorite prospect. You know, there's lots to like from a physical toolbox here. Like, there's a lot here with Jason Dominguez. The fact that he's a lefty on track to play at Yankee Stadium is also alluring. In my opinion, people are lost in that, right? We're talking about a guy that, although in a very small sample size at A-ball and rookie ball, is hitting just 236 with an OPS of 674. For a guy that's supposed to be locked and loaded with power for days, it's not there. I don't think it's going to be there. The strikeout numbers are alarming. 38 in 106 at-bats. Like, at that level is very concerning. Now, there's a bit of a learning curve. Doesn't matter who you are at pro ball. and some have better exposure to pro level players. It's fair to say Jason Dominguez has less of that, so we can give him a bit of a grain of salt to move through it. But I will say, for me, I'm very, very concerned with the long-term value of Jason Dominguez. I just don't think the swing plays at the major league level. He's still 18, lots of time to fix that. But people just assume, you just make a swing change. It's easy. It doesn't work like that. It's not that simple. And I do have very strong concerns about this swing.
Well, and I think originally he got on. So again, we use a 5-year MLB production timeline for this. So a guy like Jason Dominguez being on the list is an accomplishment in itself.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that we also consider in this, one of those vanity metrics that Ty talks about, but we've kind of put that to bed for a while, Ty. We should make sure we're getting back into that. Is also what's his trade value, right? That's something that's important too. And right now, that's all Jason Dominguez has, because I don't think we're going to see him before 2024 based on what we're seeing now, right? This isn't like the ascension where he's dominating at his level. Like you just described, there are issues, there are things he's got to work on. And the Yankees, I'm sure, are not in a rush to get him up. It won't be until he needs to be on their 40-man that there'll be a true pinch as to what he actually is within that organization. But yeah, we'll see. Next guy up here, Spencer Howard.
I just want to share this. I have a very simple rule with Yankees prospects. If you know about them, trade them. Because they hype their prospects more than any other franchise in the league to sell them. Like, remember Estevan Florial? Remember how much press he was getting 3 years ago? There's a ton of it. And where's Estevan Florial? They were trying to move him, right? That was the game. I think we're on a similar track here. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And Aaron Judge was another example of a guy who, like, on the side to think positively of Jason Dominguez, a guy who seemed to have some issues came up even to the MLB level and just did not do well. But it was something where he got to a level, was promoted from the previous level, struggled, went to the, got himself together, then got promoted to the next level, struggled, made the adjustments, continued to go. Now, Jason Dominguez, too young to be able to overcome that. We'll have to see what's up next year. But again, just cautious in dynasty leagues as far as acquiring a guy like this who could still be 3 full seasons away after this year. That's a lot of baseball that you've got to let him play before you get anything out of him. And it's not always a great idea to get the highest rated guys like this out of J2 classes. Sometimes you can do the work and see who's been given other big bonuses, or look at who's going to be a good defensive player and then see if they're able to progress offensively. Sometimes that's a better route when you're going with those young guys. Now, in 5 years, Jason Dominguez could already have a rookie of the year under his belt, and we'll be saying, good for him. He made those adjustments. But in the meantime, there are a lot of other guys that you can have and get work done at the MLB level helping you win, then Jason Dominguez can be on somebody else's roster. So an example of a guy who's up now and ready to roll is Spencer Howard, formerly of the Phillies, now with Texas. He has just been rolling in 2 crappy starts with Texas since he's been there. But whatever, he's going to have to roll through this year, get himself right into the offseason, and we'll see what happens. Now, he had a really fun, exciting 6-game stretch in 2020 where he got up and it was fun, and he just wasn't getting the Ks and doing everything we wanted to. And then this year, it's just not looking great. So he's going to definitely be on that slow development track. Now, we had him at 34 at the end of last year. With that cup of coffee, he only bumped up 2 spots to 32. You can thank Ty for getting everybody to hold back on that, because I think Spencer Howard has the ability to unlock dominant performances, but he certainly needs to be coached up.
Yeah, I mean, the fastball is the pitch, and I just don't think it's good enough. I'll be honest. Like, I don't think there's enough movement. I don't think there's enough deception. I'll be concerned with that pitch until he proves me wrong. So that's why I've been out on him. I'll stay out on him. I don't know. There's only one thing that happens with me and Spencer Howard, or 2 things. I'm either right or I'm wrong, and that means everyone else could potentially be right. But I don't see the ace that everyone else wants to see. Next on the list, Hassan Kim keeps getting this hint of hey, you're a starter. No, Tatis is back. You're a starter. No, Tatis is back. Right. And
now Tatis is going to go play center field.
2 bombs today. Right.
Yeah.
The one thing I've learned about as a Tatis owner myself is whenever Tatis comes back to the lineup, it is a must start. I have Corey Seager on our home league team and Tatis, and it was an absolute no brainer to put Seager on my bench and put Tatis in. Didn't even think twice. and I was
Well, it's funny,
rewarded.
Ty, because the
handsomely.
Nationals in choosing between Turner and Seager are like, oh yeah, Trey Turner all the way. So Corey Seager getting passed over in fantasy by you and in real MLB by the Dodgers. But anyway, Hassan Kim. So this was somebody who was ranked really high headed into the offseason because he hadn't signed. Thanks to me, he was as high as 3rd on our list. Now he is at 31. And it's not now. This was in April before we got rolling on the season. Hassan Kim was pushed back. And there were several really good reasons. He made a bad choice. I think that's obvious to us. I don't know if it is yet to him. He did the Ohtani, I want to play with some of the best players thing, but instead he went to the team that already had one of the best players at his position. So it was always going to move to second. And then it's like, well, don't forget about
the French call that les stupides.
Les incompetents. Yeah, he or his team or whomever, somebody that was in his ear was like, this is the place to go. This is the place to go. But like first base had Hosmer, third base Machado, shortstop Tatis, second base Cronenworth. And he's like, hey guys, I'm going to be your infielder. And, everyone's looking like, what's going on? But San Diego welcomed him with open arms. And then all he's done is just like, a pedestrian 217 at bats this year. You're like, none of this line is good. 5 stolen bases, over a 3-to-1 strikeout to walk rate, batting average 207, slugging 350, OPS 624. It all sucks. All of it sucks. 6 dingers. But this is very possibly a case where this offseason San Diego will do something, whatever it is, to create playing time for Kim, whether that's trade him elsewhere, but they'd have to eat a bunch of that contract, I'm sure, which $20 million for 4 years of Kim doesn't sound great right now. Or they're going to allow him to play somewhere else until maybe CJ Abrams is the guy who's ready to come up at shortstop. I don't know, but they need to do something because Hassan Kim is a lot better of a baseball player than he has been as a San Diego Padre. And I don't want to give up on him. I think there was such a recoil after spring training that people really started to, feel bad, feel like, oh, this isn't going to work out for him. And I remember they talked about he chose not to sign with Toronto. Who knows, whatever the offer was, but it had something to do with him not wanting to be able to be sent to the minor leagues. And San Diego gave him that opportunity. They, gave him a legitimate MLB contract. He can't get sent down, all that kind of crap. But as you had talked about, Ty, it may have been the thing that would have been best for him to help him to adjust to this different type of baseball.
The results so far prove exactly what I was concerned with. Like up and in is a struggle bus for him. Up and away, like really down the middle are the only 2 spots that he's really being productive, which is what I said in the offseason when we looked at Hassan Kim's swing. Like I was very concerned about the way Major League Baseball is pitching right now, that it was the worst time for this kid to be a pro, right? Like if it was 10 years ago, I would have a different take on Hassan Kim because they were pitching down in the zone, splitters and sliders, and all that stuff was still effective, which is what you see a lot in Asia, right? It's very common for the pitching repertoire. It's not in the U.S. game. So it's the wrong league for him. There is some sense of talent here, but unless he makes an adjustment, he's going to go the way of the back half of Chris Davis's career.
Okay. Ooh. Which one?
The one that just retired.
The one that just retired instead of the one that should also be
retired. Yeah.
So from 30 to 21, Ty, we'll kind of speed through this one. So how about this? Instead of doing the deep dive on these guys, because we will be able to do this in the offseason, I will tell you the player name, which obviously you can see now, and you can tell me where they're ranked now and if you think it'll be higher or lower. Does that sound good? Okay, so we've got Jazz Chisholm with Miami at 30. He will not be a prospect at the end of this year. He has exceeded that. But would you say he would be going up if he could, or he would be going down?
I think he's up, right? I mean, health is the only thing that stopped him from being a breakout superstar this season, right? Everything else that we've seen is justifying that.
Yeah, he's cooled off a little bit since he's been back. Caught stealing 7 times at this moment with 11 steals to his credit. But we all saw the hot start. We saw the potential. Marco Luciano with San Francisco. He is ranked 29th. In the preseason, we had ranked him 33. What do you think, Luciano?
It has to go up. This is a must go up. This is one of the best prospects in all of baseball.
And getting better and earning it. 28, we have Lewin Diaz with Miami, first baseman. He has not done what we thought he was going to do. But we can also blame veteran Miami players for having successful years. Jesus Aguilar as well had a really good stretch this year, and that hurts playing time for Lewin Diaz. There are other Miami guys who in the outfield have been able to get that time and, play through struggles and things like that. Not Lewin Diaz. So Diaz, would he be going up or down your list?
I think based on graduation, he's probably going to stay somewhere the same, right? Okay. But I think that essentially that's going down. But 16 home runs in AAA, 867 OPS. So not awful, but still room for improvement.
Yeah, and doing it at AAA is one thing. Coming up to the show, and like so many others, right? Coming up to the show and struggling hurts. Spencel Torkelson, I think we were already the furthest back on him, considering some people thought he would have been up playing right now for some reason with Detroit. But we had him 27th. Again, this is over the next 5 years of what we assume will be MLB production. So we ranked him as the 27th best prospect in all of baseball, and he was drafted last year. So, Ty, is he going to be moving way up or a little bit up? Because we know he's not going back.
I don't know how far I'm going to move him up because I need to really go through it. But I will say this, that I am going to rank Riley Green ahead of Spencel Torkelson going into next season. So that I will do. So, yeah, I mean, that's the reality. What I don't like with Torkelson is that he didn't get an aggressive assignment and the power numbers were overwhelming. Right? Like that's his calling card, and we didn't see it this year. You can chalk it up to whatever you want, but a transition from an aluminum to a wood bat is not easy, and we saw a little bit of a chink in the prospect armor, in my opinion.
All right, Jeter Downs at 26 with Boston. Still going to be rookie eligible for next year. Where do you he's going up. Do you think he is inside the top 10?
Oof, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Like the numbers this year have been very disappointing. And I think shy of Boston giving him a swift kick in the butt by promoting him in September, which I do think is possible. I do think it makes sense for him to be in that lineup in September to see if he can keep up, because the drop in batting average is very, very, very concerning. And so
very much like JJ Bliday.
He very easily could be going down on my list, but I want to see how he finishes the season. Guys like this that are major league prospects tend to get hot this time of year, right? They kind of figured out towards the end. So something to watch for is he could be one of those guys. He's still just 22, so there's no reason to give up on him.
Yeah. This isn't a 24-year-old who we all expected to be up this year, which we do have on prospect lists. Next man up here, Nick Lodolo at 25 with Cincinnati. Is this a top 10 prospect for you?
Yes, absolutely. This is another one of those exciting arms for me.
And in the day and age that we are now in, where everyone is suppressing pitchers in general, prospect pitching as well, all those things, Nick Lodolo, hands down top 5 starting prospect.
And again, the K per 9's there, the whip's there, everything you want to see from a starter to get like length and outings are there with Nick Lodolo. This is a guy that you want to own.
Yeah, Brendan McKay's next guy up, 24 in the offseason. He was ranked 27 for us, so a little bit of a bump up. What do you see with Brendan McKay? Is he going to stick around this area? Do you think he's moving up?
I think a couple things happened here. Like, obviously, the injuries are concerning. It's pretty much washed the entire season for him. But I think at the end of the day, this is a scenario. He has pitched this year, not much, just returned 9.2 innings. Not good. 10 earned runs in 9.2 innings. Yep. He's taking a page out of the Josh Fleming textbook.
Whoa.
Yeah, I had to go there. But I think that the other thing that's happened here with Brendan McKay, and this is going to impact his prospect stock, is that Tampa brought in a whole bunch of guys in his age bracket, right? Like in that bullpen, and they brought in Patino, and I just think they filled the spot that was going to be McKay. So he's going to need to light the world on fire in order to change that position, which is his job, and he is capable of that. There is some talent here. So we need to see it. And I think no chance this year. I don't think a chance out of camp, but I do think June next year we could see McKay.
Okay.
So
Jordan Groshans with
down. Sorry, I have to move him down. Sorry.
Oh, he's going down. Oh, okay. I was going to say for me, he's sticking right around where he is now. Jordan Groshans, is he starting next year? Top 10 guy for you?
Yeah, I think this was going to be one of the high position players for me. I'm just a very, very big believer in this swing. The thing we haven't seen yet is the power, right? The power that we think is going to be there hasn't really shown itself. Like just 12 professional home runs, right? So that's not, something to jump off the page. But I think
that's not what you want from your third baseman.
Yeah, but I think that's the reason the industry as a whole is down on this kid. But he's got good bat to ball skills, and I think the power will come. He's still very young. He's just 21. He missed a year of development, right? And I think this is a kid that has all of the right tools, and as the body comes around, 6'3", 205 right now, probably a major leaguer at 6'3", 220, 225.
Is he about to have a birthday tag? I had him written in as a 22-year-old for this year.
He is 21. November 10th is his birthday. So,
okay, I'm gonna make that. Sorry,
2 days
that's
after
my
mine.
fault.
2 days after mine. If you want to write that down, just so you
everybody
forget.
at Tourney Boss. Remember that on what date did you say? November
8th.
November 8th is
shower me with your love.
Ooh, I was told of another podcast that somebody let me know of where they have, I don't know exactly what it is, like, a Venmo or something, where you can go to their website and put money towards their beer fund. And on the guy said to me something about it was like the perfect beer for you guys because it was beer aged in bourbon barrels. And I was like, oh, and the best part is that he said it was a murder podcast. So I was like, whoa. Oh man. I mean, look where I am. So that would be something maybe we can try to figure that out so people can do that for us. Anyway, next guy up, DL Hall with Baltimore. What are you feeling on DL Hall? Ranked 22 for us now. He was 18 at the end of 2020. We moved him back a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you look closely, like the progression for DL Hall is there. I mean, we've seen 31 innings this year at AA, 3.13, K per 9's 15.9. Like that's huge. This guy just, for me, doesn't pass the eye test, right? Very similar to what tipped me off on Spencer Howard. Like when I watch DL Hall closely, I don't see elite stuff. And I think that's the way he's being presented as a prospect. He's a lefty, right? So he's going to get a shot. Like that's a foregone conclusion.
Right.
So he doesn't lose long-term value. I think he has a ceiling for me that he'll never break through it. At least I don't believe he will. So could change, right? The velocity could jump up as he gets higher, but the velocity is the big concern because it impacts the sharpness of the other stuff.
All right. Tariq Skubal was our 21st ranked prospect. He was rookie eligible to start this year. So everyone's aware. So he was 31 at the end of last year. We looked at playing time, opportunity, and stuff, and he got the bump, but outside our top 20. Ty, what do you think about him long-term? This year, it hasn't been too bad. 8-10 record doesn't sound great, but a 4.10 ERA with improvement on it. For all those guys playing in war leagues out there, 1.5 war for you.
Well, I mean, there's two parts to this. Like he's done all of that at the major league level, which is impressive. And definitely puts him in a different tier when we're talking about these guys in this list. But, for me, this is a guy I was wrong on. I really thought the repertoire was going to struggle at the major league level. It's done quite well, and I think he's shown signs of improvement in the couple starts that I've watched. We've seen some control get better. Still has that rookie tendency to fly off the handle every couple of starts, right? Like Logan Gilbert did that today against Toronto. You're going to have that with young kids. It's just a reality. I like him long-term, but I like him as an SP3. Like, I think he's just going to be in the middle of that rotation. And I think the only thing with Skubal right now is that people have shot his value through the roof because he's outperformed early predictions. And that for me, like I have to move him up because I had him low, but I think the rest of the industry should be moving him backwards just a little bit because I think the ceiling just isn't as high as they once thought it was.
Okay, so as we transition into the top 20 here, so Skubal's off the prospect list for next year for our end of season as well. Where do you think Skubal would fit in your pitcher rankings? If you can kind of think about that, because if you're saying he's an SP3, does that put him somewhere in the 60th best range, 60 to 80 for you?
I would have him mid to back of my SP3s. So I'd probably have him 70-ish, 75 maybe.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, when we talk about an SP1, that would be from your first ranked pitcher to your 30th. because that's the most logical way for us to kind of describe things as you would in a major league sense, right? If they're an SP1, that means they're the ace, quote unquote, of their team. So you could have up to 30 of those guys. But we all know in fantasy, there are not 30 aces that you can, put out there for 25 plus starts a year. It comes up and down. But when you get into guys like SP2, SP3, just gives you an idea of where we think their value could be. And as Ty said, the back end of SP3, I think that's fair for Scooble. So next guy up, Ty, top 20. We're hitting number 20 now, is former first overall pick Casey Mize with Detroit, learning. The K rate is not there at all. But from a pitcher standpoint, he seems to be able to get outs. What are your thoughts on Casey Mize and how he's done?
So I talked about Casey Mize several times over the last week. He was almost traded in our home league, and then he was traded in our home league. And I talked to both owners that were involved about Casey Mize, and I said the same thing to both of them. If you take a look at the pitch distribution for Casey Mize, it is absolutely elite, right? The pitch tunneling that would have to come with that distribution is very, very good. He's still getting too much of the plate. He's going to refine that. But the distribution tells me that the pitches are coming out of the same spot, and there's just some refinement that has to happen. So the stuff's there, the velocity's there, the sharpness in his pitches is there. So the thing that really got me excited when I dove deeper into Casey Mize was how ineffective his best pitch is. So his splitter is his best pitch, but he hasn't been using it as much, and he hasn't been getting as many people out with it. So I think that's going to be the big jump forward, is that splitter is going to unlock Casey Mize moving forward.
Okay. There you go, everybody. That's a little bit of good news. So Casey Mize, I guess that would put him as an SP2 for you.
Well, and he's bordering on team post hype right now, right? Because I think a lot of people are like, he was the number 1 overall guy. He hasn't done enough, right? So, I think he's starting to infringe on that bust territory in a lot of people's mind, which is totally unjust and unwarranted. Because, like you said, he's still getting people out.
Yeah, and he's not on a team that is bottoming out, as we've talked about on previous episodes. Detroit, I think Ty, you had said they've had a winning record 3 straight months as a team, and this is part of it. You get a guy like Casey Mize, and an important part of pitching sometimes is the ground ball, is the weak contact. It doesn't look good for fantasy, but it also can end an inning, get rid of a threat, double play ball, things like that. But sometimes you need a really crappy guy to come up to the plate, like our number 19 prospect, Leody Taveras, with Texas. Now, Leody had, I don't even know what level of hype we want to say he had coming into this season. He had just about lost his rookie eligibility last year. What was he at? 119 at bats at the end of last year. Excuse me. So he just snuck in for us this year, and he sucked. Oh my God, he sucked. In 46 at bats, only 4 hits. You don't need to know about anything else, but he had 2 stolen bases. So 4 hits and 2 stolen bases. That's good. But the fact that you had to, have so many at bats in order to get to that point, just terrible. And then at AAA for him, it hasn't been out of the ordinary for him. 247, 817, OPS is his career best across any level at AAA. So I don't think Leody Taveras should be forgotten, but Leody Taveras is not going to be rookie eligible anywhere next year. That tends to mean people just walk away, right? He can't be thrown in your minors. He sucked when he had his chance this year. So that tends to put guys in Ty's team post hype category. I'm curious, Ty, do you think Taveras is potentially one of those guys for you that could come up next year and be effective? Or do you think this might be a tough situation where a lot of things need to work out in order for Taveras to give fantasy owners reason to get him if they don't already?
16 home runs is intriguing. Yeah. I'll say that. That's a new wrinkle for him. What is very concerning for me is just the major league production. He was so overmatched. He wasn't kind of overmatched. He was like Jared Kelnick overmatched. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. And the only thing that I like about Taveras in terms of long-term value is that he is a very good defender. So when push comes to shove, if there is playing time available, and we've seen this in Toronto with Jonathan Davis. Jonathan Davis had zero business being on the Toronto Blue Jays roster over the last 18 months. He's not that good at baseball, right? To be taking up a roster spot, but played great defense, he stole some bases, and that kept him there. right? And now we're seeing with Breivik Valera, Leo Tavares is that kind of guy. So that's where he might shine, like in a very deep format. He's great bench depth, right? Because he's going to in all likelihood find his way onto a 25-man roster, whether it's in Texas or not. This could be a kind of guy. I will say this, very similar to like Victor Robles. I said this a couple weeks ago. I would like to see a change of scenery here. Okay. That would be the best thing that could happen to Tavares in my mind. So I'm definitely moving him down, though, without a doubt. I've exited all my shares.
Yeah, I feel like he's certainly outside the top 75 for outfielders, which means in a Roto 15-team league, you do not need him on your team. He is a waiver wire guy in those kind of leagues. However, if you are in one of those rare leagues where you can have a person who is playing at the minor league level in your minors, so they don't have to be a prospect, they could be just a veteran who's in the minors, that's where you might be able to get a guy like Tavares pretty cheap this offseason. And I am in one of those, well, two of those leagues, but the one I'm thinking of specifically, I think it's 6x6. I don't know. I've just been doing so poorly in it that I can't even remember our categories at the moment. But he's one of those offseason targets for me, just because there seems to be something there. It's just a matter of like, can I afford to have him? And on a team right now where I've got a lot of transitional guys, I can afford to have a guy like that. Now, Aldolis Garcia is the guy who came up and took a job away from Leody Taveras and ran with it. Joey Gallo is now gone. There'll be a reset in Texas this offseason. We will see what happens. And to Ty's point, it could mean Taveras goes in a deal. It could also mean that Taveras has the table cleared for him to start next year. But I don't know that that's going to happen. Texas was signing wily veterans again this offseason. So unless there's a management change, it could be a tough slog for him. Next man up, 18th overall prospect Dominguez. He was 16 at the end of last season and moved back, which was a little surprising. And I'm going to blame that on you, Ty. Yes. Devi Garcia, who I think it's been 2 starts he had this year, very poor. But more importantly, the ERA stands out as being terrible for him at AAA this year. Everything else isn't terrible. It's just not dominant. And I don't know if New York has skipped him. And like Louis Gill started because Garrett Cole had COVID 2 weeks ago. And that's why it wasn't their choice that they had like anyone to pick from. But Devi Garcia was not chosen, just so we're aware. And they've also been going with like Nestor Cortez and other guys. And it seems like they need Garcia to be making an improvement that they didn't think he needed to make last year when they were giving him opportunity.
I mean, listen, we both watched Devi Garcia closely last year when he was pitching against Toronto in the simple, weird, short calendar season. Mm-hmm. He looked good. He looked quite good.
Like a regular every 5th day guy that the Yankees would be silly to not roll out this year. But then they didn't.
Well, I mean, the numbers are terrifying. I'll be honest. Like AAA, like 16 starts, 7.25 ERA is not going to get it done.
You know what, Ty? It's gotten 0.6 worse, I think, since August. So he hasn't been better. He has been worse.
Well, exactly. And I mean, if I'm Devi Garcia, like I'm taking a page out of the Cortez book, I'm growing a dirty duster, and I'm finding my way onto the beardless Yankees. And that's what he needs to do. But I will say this, like in watching him last year, I like the off-speed stuff, but I really like how it profiles out of the bullpen. And I think that's where he's going to end up. I think he's going to be a very, very good, like Chad Green, 7th inning type guy to just come out and get people out in that back end of the lineup before it flips over. I think that's his destiny. I think he's going to be quite good at it. But
that's interesting.
I don't think he's a major league starter anymore, and for that reason, I'm going way back on Davey Garcia.
Okay, and I don't know exactly where he is for total innings count. I don't know if he doesn't pitch in the bigs this year, if he's under 50 at this moment. But I've already got the next guy queued up, so I'm not going back. So
he's at 42.
32?
42 career.
42. Okay, so that's tight. But if he does end up as a prospect going into next year, I think he'll end up going down a little bit for me, but that has a lot more to do with that intangible of trade value, right? Devi Garcia's trade value is hurt at the moment, so you don't want to necessarily value him too high. Now, sometimes I throw that out the window, and I mean, you'll see with some of our other guys who are ranked higher, and in previous years as well, when we had guys who people said, like, who in the heck is this guy? Like, why do you have Patrick Sandoval on your list? And all I have to say is sometimes you just need to wait it out. As a dynasty owner, the worst thing you can do is burn a guy like a Leo Tavares does not come out hot and he's out. Jared Kelnick does not come out hot and he's out. Debbie Garcia might be the same thing, right? It looks like it's not going the right way right now, but sometimes patience pays off. Now, the next one, absolute flop. Number 17, Wander Franco was our 17th ranked prospect heading into this year, 22nd at the end of last season. Why was he so far back? Well, because we didn't think he was going to get a lot of time this year. And so far, we're okay. Like I think we're within our realm here. Right now, where are we here? He is at 160 at bats. We see, let's see, 5 dingers, 3 triples, 2 doubles, and then a bunch of singles with him. 2 stolen bases. Strikeout to walk is a little over 2-1, but the average 238. The OBP, which is supposed to be that bread and butter for Franco, 300, and the OPS at 700. Ty, this is not the game changer we were told he would be, and we were pumping the brakes on him a long time ago, and we were trying to remind everybody of what Vlad had been going through prior to this season and how hard it is to be a J2 guy who is promoted and told they're going to be great and all these things. And it can get to those guys. And that's thanks to Soto and Acuna, who were the previous J2 guys who came up and just rocked it. Franco's going through that right now on a good team as well. And they cleared out Willie Adames. They like got to the point where they could give him shortstop. They could make him that guy. And he's, Mike Brousseau in it.
Yeah.
For the second mention of Brousseau this episode.
I've said this from the beginning of the Wander Franco hype train. Like for me, this is a guy that's a major leaguer. He's a good major leaguer, but I think he's more of a Carlos Correa versus a Fernando Tatis Jr., right? And I think a lot of people have tagged him as that super elite guy instead of just like slightly above average guy, which is what we see with Correa, right? So like, I think he's going to play good defense. I think he's going to give you versatility with the switch hitting ability. Like, he's going to give you enough to be a valuable shortstop in fantasy baseball. Is he going to be the best player in your team? He shouldn't be if you're going to win. I think that's where I'm at with Franco.
Okay. And Billy B was one who had asked before, what our thoughts were on Franco. And I mean, I had said to him, like, is it because like our ranking was good? Because we were not the ones who were saying, get him, own him, do all these things for him. It was a lot more along the lines of, like shortstop is tough. He's very young. This is very much a Vlad trajectory, right? A 20-year-old at the major league level who is holding his own. Is he dominating? No, not by a long shot, but he's holding his own. So this offseason, nibble at the owner. Hey, are you at all interested? I've got this, that, and the other. See what's up. But I would still say you could probably wait till the end of next season, and then that might be the time to try to sort it out.
I think he's a better strikeout numbers version of Yamakata.
Okay,
like
more ball in play is what I expect.
That's what I mean. Yeah, but I think there's still a lot of weak contact. That's the concern that I'm going to continue to have with him. Like the exit velo is not where I want it to be. He's hit some balls hard, but he's hit more not hard.
A lot of it with Franco was going to be no matter how many categories you have, he's going to dominate in them, right? Because it was stolen bases. What was it? 18 stolen bases that he had in 19. And that was really exciting to go along with, an 885 OPS and a 327 average. Well, this year, and this is not a slight, 315 average at AAA, but only 5 stolen bases and caught 4 times. Now, when he had his 18 stolen base season, he was also caught 14 times. That is not going to get you a green light in MLB. They are not going to give away outs in Tampa Bay for you to try to steal bases. And he does have 2 stolen bases right now. He's been caught once. We're not going to get to extrapolate that for him to have 20 stolen bases and to have been caught 10 times. I don't think T-Bay is going to do that. They don't seem like that type of team to me. So if he is going to continue to get to steal or try to steal, it's going to be very situational. So
he doesn't have an exit velocity on any pitch type over 80 or over 90. So all are in the upper 88 or 89 range, which again, still 20, still time to figure some of that out. But that is the thing that I'm watching very, very, very closely. The splits as well is starting to show a little bit. versus the lefties hitting 310 versus the righties hitting 208. Now, still small enough sample size that could be just a weird outlier. But again, something that is very top of mind for me with Wander Franco.
Beautiful. Next guy up here, 16, is Alex Kirilloff with Minnesota, first base outfielder, I think, depending on your format, exactly what's up with him. But this year,
catcher, whatever you want to call him,
this year in 215 at bats, he has been doing it at the major league level, and by that I just mean learning. 11 doubles, 1 triple, 8 dingers, 34 RBIs, 1 stolen base. Strikeout to walk is north of 3-1, which is not great, but the overall percentage, 52 strikeouts in 215 at bats, is less than 25%. That's okay for a guy learning at the level. 250 average with a 722 OPS. Not lighting the world on fire. No rookies are. I think Alex Kirilloff is just doing his thing. And unfortunately, Minnesota is not the highly competitive offensive juggernaut we thought they were going to be, but they are clicking along, and Kirilloff is fine. Totally fine for me. I don't know exactly where he'll end up. If he is legit first base for next year or legit outfield, like when we do our rankings, I don't know where I can say he will comfortably fit, but I certainly project him to be at this stat line. That would be his floor to me. Do you share that opinion?
I don't know what to do with Kirilloff. I'll be honest. I think I'm going to move him down because the power for me is just, I don't think it's there.
Okay.
And so I'm very concerned with the power output there, regardless of whether he's in a corner outfield spot or first base. That's a problem. So that's the thing I'm just not comfortable with. And frankly, Minnesota's not getting better anytime soon.
Yeah, fair enough. Next guy up, 15, is Matt Libitor, former Tampa Bay, traded to St. Louis. I can't remember that deal. I can't remember who it was. Oh, right, Arizona. Just kidding. I remembered everybody. But Matt Libitor, dirty curveball. And next year for me, Ty, I think he's definitely top 5 SP for me. I don't know if he's top 3 prospect SP, but he's a top 5 prospect SP for me for next year. And I'm loving it. I think Matthew Libitor is going to come into St. Louis at the right time when there will be opportunity for him to come up and start. And, hopefully there is no Alex Reyes injury thing that goes on. That's not a St. Louis thing at all. But I'm just hoping that he's able to come up and continue that development. Are you a Libitor believer or are you a Libitor denier?
I'm a believer, but I'm going to move him back. And that's because I think he just needs more time. And This is kind of something you tend to see consistently from the Cardinals organization, so it's not shocking. I think they're making some shifts and some changes to some of his stuff. I think this guy has front-end potential. And I think they're just trying to polish him up and not rush him. And I think, frankly, put him in the next wave, not with the old stars they have now.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, we could find out this offseason. I think you had said it on one of the previous ones. If both like Molina and Wainwright ride off into the sunset together, then that might open the door for other opportunities. We've talked about Ivan Hernandez. There's also Kinzer, catcher options. Everybody loves catchers. So
I need to see the strikeout number shift. 8.8 right now at AAA, K per 9 is not good enough.
He's young.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm a believer. I'm recognizing that he absolutely, without a doubt, needs more time. So if we see him sooner than later, that is a time to get out.
If he's up early, you think that's the time to sell him? Okay, because you think there'll be the struggles. So There you go. If you see Libitor coming up too soon, which I guess for you would be next season. Does that sound? Yeah.
You should not see him next season.
Okay. And for me, I'm thinking it's possible because he's already on the cusp to see him at some point mid-season, and I would be happy with that personally. But we have the rest of this year and a whole off season to be influenced ourselves as well as try to influence you. So now we are inside the top 15. We are hitting 14 for us. CJ Abrams. I know 14 for CJ Abrams. He's going to change baseball. The problem with CJ Abrams is that there are 18 shortstops ahead of him on the depth chart in San Diego. However, the best one is now going to be the center fielder, which was what people had said CJ Abrams was going to do. Abrams was going to have to leave shortstop in order to play. And that's how I felt. I thought there's no way CJ Abrams will be San Diego's shortstop. Well, I got to say it's possible now, Ty. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it's possible. Abrams for me is going to move up. He'll be inside my top 10. I don't know if I'm going to bank on that production in 2022, but I'm certainly thinking that 2023 beyond, for that 5-year window, we're going to get a lot of good quality CJ Abrams on a competitive San Diego team.
He's not moving up for me. There's no way with the power profile.
Oh, okay.
The concern for me is the lack of power, but also the lack of extra base hits, right? The OPS is just 782, but his on-base percentage is 363, right? So that's a concerning slugging percentage at 420 for a guy that's supposed to be a star fantasy player. Like I'm not seeing that star potential because the hit tool is there, but the hit tool's there for Jose Iglesias, right? So, I think he profiles more as a Jose Iglesias than a Fernando Tatis Jr., honestly.
All right. So Jonathan India, next one up. I think Jonathan India is just perfect at 13 for us. Jonathan India is coming in on a team with Cincinnati, which was really like 500, a little bit better all year. And now they're a playoff wildcard contender. But they are not a dominating team. They'd score a ton of runs 3 straight days, and then they get shut out the next day. So Jonathan India for me is performing really well, and I'm very happy with him. I'm very glad that he was 13th ranked for us. I think dynasty owners, when we get into the offseason, really break it down position by position, we're going to find Jonathan India's projections are going to catapult him into probably top 5 at his position. I don't know where he's going to fit in an overall, but Jonathan India to me is like a great dynasty player.
Like for me, I think he very easily could be the rookie of the year in the National League. So I think he's probably going to be deserving of it by the time it's said and done. There might be a strong push here down the stretch from Ian Anderson. I think Trevor Rogers would fade.
Yeah, I was going to say Trevor Rogers. Sorry, Ty. If Trevor Rogers had started consistently, I think as well, that would have been a factor for him. But it's also, I mean, we kind of saw Kyle Lewis. Well, I don't know. It's voted in, but we kind of saw Kyle Lewis have a really good September and Robert not. And then Kyle Lewis was the AL Rookie of the Year. So, but we all know Ohtani's the MVP, so who cares? Number 12, Tristan Mckenzie, won't be rookie eligible next year. We differ, so I think it's fair to say we've talked about him enough. Like to me, Tristan McKenzie's on the rise. To you, there's a lot of question marks. Is that a fair way to do it?
I'm moving him down. On my list, okay. I'm moving him down anyway. I like him. I like some of the stuff. I do not like his long-term potential. It's that simple.
I think the big thing for him is his spaghetti body. I find it to be very attractive on the mound. And I don't mean that in a sexual way. I mean that
12 of his 16 home runs off the fastball.
Well, there you go. So all he's got to do is just 12 less fastballs, Ty. See, that's the kind of way I coach guys. I coach them up. You need to throw 12 less fastballs. And those are the ones you gave up for dingers. Anyway.
See, my thing is when I'm pitching is just don't throw a strike that can't hit it for a home run.
Well, the other thing you got to do is you got to open your eyes when you throw the ball. That's right. That's a big problem you've been having. Where to go? Yeah. Okay. So this was your number 1 pitcher prospect.
Correct.
Ian Anderson, number 11 with Atlanta overall for us. So I did have Sixto Sanchez in front of him. I'm trying to look. I had Kopeck as well. So I think Anderson was 3rd for me. But anyway, he was 15 for us at the end of last season, prior to this season, number 11. I mean, I certainly believed him in the TGFBI industry league that I'm in. He was supposed to be my ace, along with Max Fried and a bunch of other dudes, Ohtani as well, a bunch of other guys who, have all had troubles. But Ian Anderson is certainly still on the right trajectory. Mm-hmm. So you were saying potential for him to still be the NL Rookie of the Year. Clearly you believe in him. So is he an SP2 for you for next year? He'll fit, I guess he'll fit somewhere in the 31 to 60 range.
He's an SP1 for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, production wise, we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's just there. I think he just has the out pitch. He has 2 out pitches and in a decent fastball, right? Okay. And that's the reality that you need in to be a front end starter. Sixto has it as well. Like if Sixto's healthy, Sixto could have won me over in terms of top pitching guy on this list, but But for me, Ian Anderson today is the number one guy on this list pitching wise. Like I said, I do think he's been very good the last couple of weeks. I think if strong finish, I think he will be the NL Rookie of the Year. But if not, I think it's going to be Jonathan India.
Okay. I've got one. So I'm creating a new category for us. And this is for our top 10. It's fun and exciting. So we're going to go from 10 to 1 because we're already just about at an hour 20 here. We're going to say if we are right or wrong based on where they are ranked today. So Andrew Vaughn was our 10th ranked prospect. Were we right or wrong on Andrew Vaughn?
I think we nailed that one. I think that's right where he needs to be.
I agree. We saw a lot of struggle at the start of the year. We've seen an adjustment. Andrew Vaughn, I don't think you can get him in a dynasty league right now.
You should not be able to.
He looks to be able to be anchoring himself. Number 9, Michael Kopeck. We knew he was not going to start this year, but the potential is still there, and he has had a very solid season. Are we right or wrong to have Kopeck at 9?
I think he's too high. I think he's in the teens for me. So I think he's got to be just a touch lower. And it's based on, like, to be this high on the list, like, you've got to give huge upside. And so you're either getting 40 saves or you're a starter, and he's neither of those things. So he has to be in the teens for me.
And just to clarify, do you believe that Kopeck will be stretched out to start next year? Okay. I believe he will. I think that 9 will be a bargain when we look back, but that's cool. That's why we're doing it. Number 8, Randy Arozarena, who was previously on our top 50 list. So this is actually his second year being on the list. Good for him. Do you think at 8 he is ranked too high, too low, just right?
I would say too low. I think he should be a top 5 guy on this list. And I mean, we were expecting the recoil. We've seen the recoil. Frankly, I don't think it's been as bad as it could have been, or I thought it was going to be, and that's why I had him lower. So that's why I think he's too low.
Yeah, I mean, he was a major league plug and play guy who was not owned in several dynasty leagues. Yeah. So number 7, Jared Kelnick.
I mean, everyone was wrong on this one for this season, right? Moving forward, I think we're fine. Like, I think he's going to be an absolutely fine major league player. But we were definitely wrong for this season. No questions.
Yeah. And I mean, he's got to make up a lot, right? Because we're basing this list on MLB production, and just you are going to be the 7th best at production. And the stat line for this year is actually like negative, right? Like he's hurting you to have him in your lineup. So he's basically got 4 years, or the rest of this season plus 4 years, to dominate, to catch up.
And the other part of it is if he hasn't lost it yet, he's going to lose rookie eligibility, right, at some point through the end of the season. So I think that's a huge part of why I think we're too high.
Okay. Julio Rodriguez, his former, I think they were former teammates. Anyway, Julio Rodriguez, who is smacking the snot out of the ball, but it's in the minors, not in the majors. He's 6th for us. Is that too high, too low, just right? And this also, of course, accounts trade value as one of those vanity metrics.
Yeah, I still think it's too high. He's a year away still. He's very, very, very good. And he's going to be very valuable. The one concern, again, I have is that he's moving quickly. He's 20, and the power isn't there yet. So very similar to like a Jordan Groshans who we talked about earlier. Like, I need to see that power start to come out, right? He's got the frame, again, also 6'3", but just 180, right? So if he's truly going to be a fantasy asset, he needs to bulk out a little bit. If not, he could end up being a defensive outfielder, which is concerning. And we do see that with hype prospects. So that's the one thing I'm paying attention to. 26 career professional home runs, over 820 at-bats. So, just over a major league season worth of at-bats. 26 bombs, not the worst. So if you got a 2020 guy there, you're going to be pretty happy with that.
Yeah. So this is an interesting one, Ty. Here's the stat line. In 305 at-bats, 32 runs, 14 dingers, 52 RBIs, 1 stolen base, a bazillion strikeouts to 17 walks, a 233 average, and a 727 OPS. It doesn't sound great, but that is our number 5 prospect. It's Bobby Dahlback, everybody, with Boston. First base, I think he was third base eligible. I don't know, whatever. We had written him in as third base, but it's first base. What do you think on that ranking for Bobby Dahlback? It has been such a weird season for him, Ty. Just so you know, his last 67 at bats, which is the last month, he's been a 269, 875 hitter, but still 5-1 strikeout to walk. And that's 40% K rate.
I think we got this one just about right. And okay. I think Jonathan India is a very similar profile statistically outside of the hit tool, right? Which Jonathan India is a better hit tool player. We know that. But Bobby Dahlback also has 40, 50 home run potential, right?
Right.
Now,
very Pete Alonso in Bobby Dahlback.
Correct. I agree. And that's probably the best comparable for Dahlback. So I think we got this one right because he got the counting sets. You got to remember, too, the big difference between India and Dahlback. India has done his production out of the top of the lineup where Dahlback has done it out of the bottom. And so, a little bit of a different scenario around him. India's going to find himself with guys on base and other scenarios that allow him to do different things, whereas Dahlback is getting guys that are giving him less to hit. And we talked about this with Toronto hitters for years. As they were rebuilding, and very similar here with Dahlback. He's not going to get the same pitches. So I think that's completely important when you take this analysis.
All right. And again, Dahlback has been improving steadily from the last month to the last 2 weeks to last week, but that's part of the pie, part of the picture for this year. And again, a 5-year strategy. So to say that Bobby Dahlback was your 5th best or is our 5th best prospect is saying something. It's putting weight to it. And again, you're now seeing Vaughn, I guess, well, how far back can we go here? The last guy who has not yet debuted was our 14th prospect, CJ Abrams. India, Tristan Mckenzie, Ian Anderson, Vaughn, Kopeck, Aries, Kelnick, and then Julio has not debuted. Everyone else has. Everyone else on the list has as well, but some not this year. So next guy up, Nick Madrigal.
He was quick, that would be really interesting to compare against other lists. How many other people have their prospect list with guys that haven't debuted, right? It'd be interesting.
Yeah. Well, I know Bobby Witt Jr. is not in our top 50, and Bobby Witt Jr. will be inside everyone else's top 10. If he was not in their top 25 to start the year, even when there was that talk of Bobby Witt Jr. is going to start the year, none of that swayed us to get him inside the top 50. So just one of those things where yes, we moved in on Dalton Jeffries and we thought there was value there. But with Bobby Witt Jr., we were looking a little bit more at long-term and things of that nature. So next up was Nick Madrigal. Ty, were we right, wrong, just right?
We were absolutely right. He got hurt. There's nothing you can do about that. We were absolutely right on the trajectory Madrigal was on. So I don't think any change there. I think everybody knows what he is. Huge hit tools, going to score runs. He's going to be the leadoff guy for Chicago Cubs for the foreseeable future. Yeah.
Sixto Sanchez was our number 3. Now, pre-injury, of course. Sixto Sanchez, we expected to walk in and essentially be SP1, SP2 in Miami and legitimately be like a dominant pitcher. And we haven't got to see an inning, unfortunately, but he was 5th for us at the end of last year and started this year 3rd on our list. With the injuries and all that, he's still going to be rookie eligible next year, Ty. What do you likely rookie eligible next year. What do you think about Sixto?
I think he's going to win NL Rookie of the Year next year, and I think we have him right where he needs to be. I think he's probably going to be number 1 on this list heading into next season.
Okay. By default, he would be now based on rookie eligibility. The second guy we have is Ryan Mountcastle with Baltimore. Now, it has not been the most exciting, fun, happy time for Mountcastle this year. But I mean, he's righted the ship. What's his average right now here? 264 with a 785 OPS. The strikeouts have been the thing, I guess, about a 30% strikeout rate. The walk rate is fairly low, somewhere in, I think it's under 7%, but 19 dingers, 49 RBIs, 63 RBIs, 49 runs, 4 stolen bases. And I think he's on a crappy team that's going to get better, and his stat line is going to get better with it.
That's right. He's got no protection, and that's going to change it, right? We've seen what it's done for Vlad in Toronto. We're going to see the same thing here for Ryan Mountcastle as the depth of that organization starts to come back around.
Yeah, and I believe Mountcastle is hurt, concussion right now. But prior to that injury, he had been hitting over 300 with the 65 at bats prior. So there, and I'm simply picking the stat line of the average just to give you an idea outside of the counting stats because of the team he's on, right? Yeah. Like if you could be on Boston and hitting 8th, like Bobby Dahlback, and contributing the same amount on the stat line as Ryan Mountcastle is today. But the expectation is that Mountcastle will Mountcastle's team will get better around him, and Dahlback will move up in the lineup. But at the moment, both players are expected to do vastly different things with their team, right? Baltimore expects Mountcastle to help to drive the offense. Boston is hoping that Dahlback can be a surprise addition, when he's in the lineup. Our number one guy, Ty, we had him as our number one guy as soon as last season ended. I think he was hurt to start the year, so it was a slow start for him. But Pittsburgh's Ke'Bryan Hayes.
Yep.
Were we right?
I think 100%. This is a guy that I'm going to spend all offseason trying to own one share of.
Okay.
Because I think he is the franchise cornerstone for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Okay. So sorry, I meant to ask, with Ryan Mountcastle at 2, were we right on Mountcastle?
Yes.
I agree that we were right.
Had we saw the rest of this season through without an injury, I think he would have been arguably the best player in the top 10.
Okay. So just so everyone's aware for Ke'Bryan Hayes, the stat line is fine, but the stat line is not dominant. He has 231 at bats, 29 runs, 25 RBIs, 5 dingers, which is rough. That's what he had last year in 85 at bats, 2 stolen bases, but low K, 57 Ks in those 230 at bats, and a little bit more than a 2-to-1 strikeout to walk, a 255 average, and a 712 OPS. Now, things to remember about Ke'Bryan Hayes, very much like Ryan Mountcastle, there's no protection.
Yeah.
There's no need for a pitcher to pitch to him, because they can just go to the next guy if they want to in the lineup. And there's no one to drive him in, and there's no one on base to have driven in. So it's hard for production to come that way. And Ke'Bryan Hayes might end up needing the last 2 years of our 5-year window to be the most dominant guy, to like get ahead and do all those things, because Pittsburgh itself is going to need to reset. And I didn't know they were going to go as low as they have been, that essentially everyone who goes on waivers just ends up in Pittsburgh. But that's the obstacles to overcome. We also thought that O'Neal Cruz was going to be part of this, right? Mm-hmm. So there are talented guys within Pittsburgh that they have not teamed up with Ke'Bryan Hayes yet this year. And then there are other guys like Phillip Evans, who quite honestly, I thought he was going to be a lot better than he was. He's not on this list as a top 50 prospect, but I thought Phillip Evans was going to be a useful major league player. Turns out, he had a hot start, got hurt again, second year in a row. And since he's been back, he's been rough. So he's going to need this offseason to right his ship. But that's the big one here. We did have some questions from people on the Twitter who were asking some good things. I know Yancey had said, where is Shane Baz on the list? I think that's a great question. He's not on the top 50. But he certainly will be inside the top 25 come next year. He has been very good, not outside of the organizational bump that you want to give to a Tampa Bay pitcher on the cusp, which, you can not Tristan Mckenzie, sorry, you can Brendan Mckay and Brent Honeywell and Josh Fleming, and you can name all the random guys mixed in with the top prospects and everything else. But Baz has just been damn good. So I think he's going to be a big target this offseason in some of my leagues.
Yeah, and it's part of what we talked about with Brendan Mckay earlier, right? Is guys like Shane Baz, Patino are now in his way, and that's a major problem. So, he's been elite, but I think you might see him in the David Price role that we saw in, what year is that? 90, 99?
Oh, where they come in as a reliever. Yeah. Oh, it was like 07 or something, Ty, like when they did the first World Series run.
Yeah, whatever that year was.
Yeah.
One of those years back in the past.
Did you say 97?
I don't know. It's 99. I always say 99. It's my default of back then was 1999. So
oh my God. I was just about to graduate high school and go live my best life. One of the other ones we had was from John _Bratkits said, Prado, Gorman, Batty, and then Gore, Pearson, Nolan Jones. Well, Nolan Jones, we mentioned, he was 44th. Pearson, not in our top 50. Gore, we had said before, was at 34. So Brett Batty, too far away to be on our top 50 based on a 5-year production window. It's not realistic. I don't know that he'll be on it next year. I can't imagine that's going to happen. Nolan Gorman, yeah, he's going to be in that top 50, I'm sure, next year. We're going to have to see how the rest of the offseason shakes out between him and the rest of the prospects. But for me, he's looking like he's getting to that point. Somebody else I'm going to touch on very quickly, who I have been all over for a couple of years, is Logan Baker. And Logan Baker is getting it.
Can we just call him the Muffin Man from now on?
Why?
He's a baker. Logan Baker, the Muffin Man.
Boo. You can do better than that. Boo.
Wow.
But
that is the top. That's top shelf.
Nick Prado. I'm gonna say on the Nick Prado train. Look at Hector Olivares. Imagine being Nick Prado and being like, when am I going to get my chance, man? I think I'm ready. I think I'm good. I'm in the right organization. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. I'm in the worst organization because every prospect that KC has comes up and sucks if they're on the mound. And if they're a hitter, they just get sent back down. We talked about Jorge Soler trade meaning good things for Hector Olivares. He's been sent down since that trade. So I don't know. Nick Prado, I definitely think, depending on, no, I definitely think he'll be in the top 50, depending on the full season stat line and what's going on within KC's organization. He could be moving up. He could be moving into the top 40. He could be moving somewhere in the mid 30s. There's a lot of room for him to be anywhere from, I would say, 50 to 35, because I expect to see some good things from him. And Michael Simeone, SP Streamer, said, where is Gore? Well, Gore is 34 and falling the wrong direction, unfortunately. And I did say that we did have him ranked at 34 in our preseason. We knew. But yeah, so that pretty much covers it. I do want to thank a lot of people who, contributed things that, there were other questions and things that we did get to cover. So that's great. And again, find us at Dingers Pod, find Ty at Tourney Boss, or myself at Robbie Baseball 1. We know you don't want to ask the questions. It's late in the year. Depending on your format, your trade deadline is over, all those things, but it's still time to find value. There's still guys out there on the waiver wire. Ty, somebody threw a perfect game last night who is unowned, Arizona Diamondback, who is unowned in our 30-team dynasty league that is having the slowest draft ever right now, our real money auction league. Thanks to whoever the KC owner is, who finally picked after, I'm going to say 10 hours. I'm still 4 picks away. I haven't made a pick since Thursday. I think that's right. So 3 full days I have not got to make a draft pick in. It's a 30-team league, and it's brutal. But anyway, Tyler Gilbert is unowned in that league, and I bet you he's going to be picked up in the next 10 picks. That's somebody you can go get.
I have zero interest in owning.
Maybe not you. Maybe the listener you. You can go get a Tyler Gilbert, because nobody owns him anywhere. And I looked, the fun thing about Fantrax is you can just click on the player's name and you can scroll over to see, who has him and this and that. And Tyler Gilbert was picked up off waivers in 5 of my leagues yesterday. So late in the year, 30-team leagues, people are looking for value. Hey, go get yourself some Tyler Gilbert, because you know what he's going to get, Ty, is at least one more start. So that's worth a waiver wire pickup. But yeah, and we are going to go back, because we had some unfinished business with more of our players that we were talking about in a previous podcast, or I guess it hasn't been released as a podcast yet, but our previous live stream, Ty, of breaking down pitchers, catchers. We're going to go through the positional guys on the next podcast.
Absolutely. Great spot to leave it, Robbie. Until next time, so Tyler and Rob here on